Hello and welcome to today's video. This is a wizard's guide to defensive baking discussion video. We've read the book. It was a book club book for August and September. Yeah, August and September it was a book for. We are now halfway through October, but that's fine. We have both now finished it.
Yep.
And we are ready for this. We are ready to discuss. So yeah, the book we read was A Wizard's Guide to Defensive Baking by T. Kingfisher. And the way this video is going to go is going to do a general chat where we just have a little chat. And then before we go into spoiler sections, we'll give a verbal spoiler warning, and we'll also have it timestamped down below of when the spoiler sections start. For this first part of the video, we are not going to go into spoilers, so it doesn't matter if you have or haven't read it. In the second part of the video, we will be going into spoilers, so if you don't want to be spoiled, you'll have to click out then. And if you want to join in the book club for any of the future books, the Discord will be linked down below, and you can find all the information there. So yeah, I think it's time to just get into our general non-spoiler chat.
Yes.
Okay, so I think the first important question is, how did we read it?
I read it on my Kindle.
I also read it on my Kindle, but I also did a lot of it reading both on the Kindle and listening to audio at the same time. I wasn't a big fan of the audiobook, I'm not gonna lie, but I did find it helped me get through it. Which leads us on very nicely to our second question. What star rating did we give it?
I gave it 3 stars.
Okay, you've lowered it since you finished.
Did I say 4 stars before?
3.5. You're going to give your first 0.5 star to it.
Right, yeah, no, it's 3 stars.
It's 3.
Yeah.
I've given it 2.5 stars. I didn't really like it. I don't think it's a bad book, but it wasn't for me. So yeah, on that cheery note. Without spoilers, what were your likes and dislikes is kind of like something we think is important to talk about. So should we do all the likes first and all the dislikes?
Yes, that's fine.
Yeah, so for me, I liked how easy it was to visualise it. Like, there was nothing in my brain that was having to figure out what things looked like or what things would be like. Like, the way it was written was just super easy to visualise it. So I guess this would be good, like, good ambience. Might be how you say it properly, but yeah, I just found it very easy to visualise.
I'm not good at visualising things in general. Like, that's part of the reason I don't read fiction that much, but to a certain extent I agree. Yeah. Like, I think of all of the fiction books that I have read, I do think, yeah, it was probably one of the easy ones to imagine.
Yeah.
It was easy to read. Like, I think
I've put that as well, like the writing style was very easy to read.
Yeah.
Like, it was very just flowy and easy.
Yeah.
And then my other like is, this is the only way I can think to put it in a non-spoilery way, but I really liked the non-human sentient things. I think they were a good addition.
I think that's a really good way to word it. Yeah, when you said that earlier, I wrote down the same thing.
Okay.
One of the non-human sentient characters was actually introduced in chapter 2, and I remember writing a note that at the end of chapter 1 I was like, I'm really not feeling this, and then when that character was introduced I was like, I'm actually going to enjoy this book.
Yeah.
So I think, yeah, the non-human sentient characters really do make the book.
Okay. That will be very interesting to talk about in the spoiler section, because I think I had a different reaction to you. Okay. But we'll keep going for now.
Yeah, sure.
Do you have any more likes?
Don't think so.
Okay, perfect. Neither do I. Dislikes. You can go first, because mine are probably going to sound really brutal.
Okay. So I felt like the plot was split in a weird way. Like, the only way I can explain it is it felt like it was 2 separate stories.
Yeah, I agree. I also had a dislike that is the plot, but mine was just the plot was boring, both of them. But yeah, there were 2 plots.
Okay, so the first one, it felt like, what, is that it? Like, that was a bit rubbish.
And that was at like 63%.
Yeah, so the pacing did seem really weird, but I really enjoyed the second story.
Yeah, so essentially if you're thinking of it as arcs, we had the introduction and then we had a full arc and then a bit of time and then a secondary arc. That's kind of...
Yeah, but neither of them were good enough to have been a book on their own, so like it does make sense that it was.
But it could have been done better.
Yeah, I don't know how, I've been thinking about this, I don't know how it could have been done better, but it definitely, there was something off about the way it was split into 2 stories.
I have one more dislike.
What's that?
Oh no, I have 2. We've only talked about plot, haven't we?
Yeah.
Okay, so I didn't like the characters. Any of them. So,
First.
yeah. I liked some of the, like, non-human sentient things, but they definitely weren't their own characters. They were just additions to the story. I didn't like any of the actual characters we had. So, for one reason or another, there were lots of different reasons, but I just wasn't a fan. And I'm going to go straight into my other dislike, is it was so childish in so many places.
Yeah, okay, yeah, that's fair enough. It feels like it was written for like 8-year-olds, 9-year-olds, that sort of age, doesn't it?
Yeah, that is one thing I will bring up momentarily.
Okay.
Do you have any other dislikes?
Not non-spoiler.
Not non-spoiler. Okay, perfect. So the other thing I've got wrote down for this non-spoiler section is just, are there any other non-spoiler notes that we want to make? And for me, it is the age thing. I think that this book has been miscategorised. This is categorised as young adult fantasy. Oftentimes when it is being sold, it's also said to be young adult cozy fantasy. And it's not that. Like, I think this is like a fun fantasy middle grade. But it is a middle grade. I don't think that it's young adult. But I know nothing about how books get categorised or why it might have been categorised as young adult, even though it reads and feels like a middle grade. And like, I read middle grades, like not many, but I read, you know, a handful of middle grades a year and 3 or 4 handfuls of young adult books a year. And this definitely was in that middle grade of how it read and felt. Which I think also caused me to not like it, because I went in expecting something very different than what I got, because I do feel like it was so miscategorised.
That makes sense. There was a few places where I thought it was like gonna take a dark turn and then it didn't, and it's like, why not?
Yeah.
Because it's written for kids.
And like, I don't mean kids, like I still think like a lot of people can enjoy this. I think if I knew it was a middle grade, I might have enjoyed it more.
Okay.
I enjoy middle grade. It's a like category and age category that like I do enjoy. I do think there's good books, especially like spookier Halloween middle grades. Like there's 2 or 3 series that I read, and the year that I read Amari and the Night Brothers, that made it to my top books of the year, not just the top of the middle grade. Like it's fully stood by itself as one of the top books. Like it competed with a lot of the young adult and adult books that I'd read that year. So you can have good middle grades. Like that's not why it was bad, but I feel like it could lead to not getting what you want out of the book, not knowing that going in.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And I would be interested, like I haven't done any research into this online yet. Like we've only really, well, we didn't speak much between ourselves when we were reading it, but this is our first kind of discussion. Have you looked into it online at all?
No.
No, I didn't even read other people's reviews because I was worried that I was going to get like swayed when I was writing my review on Goodreads. So
fair enough.
Yeah. Do you have any other non-spoilery bits to add?
No.
No? Perfect. So, if you've not read the book, if you do not want to be spoiled, this is the moment to click out of the video. From this moment on, we are going into spoiler territory and spoiler content. So if you haven't read the book, if you don't want to be spoiled, goodbye.
That's right.
So what we've basically done, we've both made notes on things that we think would be good to discuss. We're going to both bring them up to each other.
Yeah.
And hopefully it'll lead into a natural conversation. This is our first video we've made for the book club, so hopefully it turns out...
Even though this is our second book that
it is the second book. Let's not go into that. Technically the second book, but this is our first video for the book club, and we haven't really done like a discussion.
That's true.
And I think it is going to be more difficult because we, you know, 2.5 is just middle of the road. I'm probably just never going to think about it again. Yeah. So let's get into this spoilery discussion.
Yeah, cool.
I thought the opening was really strong.
See, I'm the opposite. As I said, after the first chapter, I was like, meh, really couldn't care less about this.
So I have this wrote down. I'm going to like read it out because I wrote it down. There was a dead girl in my aunt's bakery. That was her first line. Like, I thought that was so intriguing. And so like, oh, what are we getting into here?
Okay, I can see that. It didn't do that for me.
Didn't do it.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed the way that the magic system was introduced. It felt like a very natural, easy way for the magic system to be introduced. It was just suddenly like, oh, she needs to do a part of her job. And then we get to the dough and it was like a...
Yeah, I highlighted, I think it might have been the first, the way the magic's introduced. She's like, she gets a floury hand and puts it in the dough and suggests that it doesn't want to burn. I agree, I thought that was really nice, the way like gently introduced the magic, and also like in general throughout the book we learnt about the magic quite slowly, and so did she, and I like that parallel.
Yeah, I agree.
Cool.
I really liked the introduction of Bob.
Me too.
From the introduction of Bob, all I wanted was more Bob. And by the end of the book we do get more Bob, like, you know, by the end of it we get more Bob in there. But not enough. There wasn't enough Bob.
No,
like,
I agree.
You introduced this strong character that was so easy to like attach yourself to and fall in love with, and then like the character wasn't there for most of the time.
I feel the same way. Speaking of Bob and the other familiars, is that what they're called, the gingerbread man and the...
Yeah, I mean Bob was definitely like a familiar, and I feel like that's what the others fell into.
Okay, so I really liked them. I really liked the like how mischievous they were, and like I think they were introduced really well. I really liked them. I also liked that Mona liked them.
Yes.
Like you could sort of tell that. It was the way it was introduced, it made it feel like she cared about them.
So what Jay's introducing to you now is that there was a found family vibe with both Mona and the familiars throughout the book.
That's good to know. Thank you.
That's
but yeah.
Like that's what it is, like it's found family.
Okay, yeah, well I like that.
It's a trope, so you should take note of that, because
nice.
Other books with that trope in, you might like.
Brilliant. Good to know. Yeah, I like that. And then, as I said, it was Bob. The introduction to Bob made me realise that I am actually going to like the book. After the first chapter, I was kind of feeling very much like, meh, don't really care. So, that was good.
And obviously we have this murder in the bakery, and at chapter 3 we actually get into that part of the plot. We meet the Inquisitor, after we'd already met the constables.
Oh yeah.
And eventually we go to the palace. I have no notes on this, I have nothing. This was just boring to me.
Same.
Like, I didn't care about it at all. Like, there was a massive trip to the palace, and then the entire, like, staying there, and then, like, this trial or whatever you want to call it. Like, it was just boring.
Yeah.
And I understand, like, it had to do that to introduce characters, but I also don't think it did it well.
The whole thing was just, it was just setting the scene right.
Yeah.
But it did so with way more pages and words than it needed to, I think.
Yeah. I feel like it was interesting that, like, when it was all done, they just let Mona go, like, make your own way home. They didn't care, and that kind of showed us how all of the adults in this book were going to act for the entire book.
That's a very good point.
They just don't care. I did make an interesting note after this section that was incorrect.
Okay.
I made a note of, like, this is a really obvious thing, and it turned out not being correct, and I think it might have been laid out wrong. So I made a note basically saying the Inquisitor is obviously out for magic folk, and either the Duchess or Lord Ethan obviously know about this. From that trial, that is what I got from that. Yeah, the Inquisitor was out for magic folk, but apparently no one knew that. But with how that trial went,
yeah,
that's how it came across. Like,
they should have been able to figure that out from that, shouldn't they?
Yeah.
But they just didn't. There was a couple of things where it's like, it felt like there were points where it wasn't obvious why someone was behaving in such a way, and I remember thinking, oh, that'll come up later, and it just never did.
No. And then not a lot happened for a while again.
We
finished that trial and not a lot happened. At 15%, I said, Nag sounds cool.
Yeah.
Nag was the dead horse. I really like the dead horse. Chapter 10, I wrote, will the gingerbread man get a name for us to call him, like Bob? And no, he didn't. So that was another disappointment.
Oh yeah, I hadn't even thought of that. I think I expected there to be more like conspiracy or like backstory. So at one point it said the worst day of her life was when she found out that her parents had died. So she wasn't there, so she, you know, I was thinking, oh, it's a cover up. They were murdered in like the previous war, or, you know, they were wizards and it needed covering up or something. And, you know, it was just whoever it was conspired to make her believe that they died of a fever or whatever it was. And it just wasn't. The parents never get mentioned again, which I thought that was a bit disappointing.
I thought it was disappointing. I'm also very worried that it's just leaving us an opening for a second book.
Well, I think if they want to do that, that's fine. We just won't read. I mean, I won't be reading it.
No, I won't. But like, I feel like, you know, with what we did in this book, like, I don't know. Yeah, I agree with you. It was, yeah.
Yeah.
So by the point where we are in the book,
yeah,
we've also met
Yeah, we have.
We're meeting so many characters that it wasn't a memorable moment. even though like he literally attacked her, it wasn't a memorable moment because we just consistently for the first like 4 or 5 chapters met character after character after character. It wasn't memorable, and I think it's very interesting that he was the character that we're meant to like latch onto at the meeting and was going to become a big part of it.
Oh, okay.
Like, did you think it was memorable for you? Like,
No, not particularly.
Like, it just seemed to me like another character getting introduced.
Yeah.
Not like, oh, this is going to be like a secondary character. Chapter 11. Things start picking up. Or so it seemed.
Okay.
Yeah, so we had an attack by the Spring Green Man. And then we went and sat in a tower for ages. So, I don't know. Spring Green Man. Stupid name. Why? Well,
Because he wore green.
yeah, obviously, but like, it's just such a stupid name.
Well, it's aimed at kids, isn't it? Like.
But it wasn't meant to be.
I know,
It was
yeah,
advertised as young adult. Like.
Yeah, no, I understand what you mean. It's a bit of a rubbish.
Yeah. And then there was like, oh, there's a list of magic folk. It's like, yeah, of course there's a list of magic folk. This person's going around. You've known for at least 11 chapters now, but it might have been chapter 12 they were talking about this, that magic folk all over the city are getting killed. You don't think that they know who they are? That you don't think they're organised? Yeah, and then at this point it was also confirmed that the Inquisitor was involved. So I feel like that's important to mention. It was confirmed, like, oh my gosh, such a shock.
Yeah.
That was sarcasm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything to add? Because my next points go pretty
No,
easily through it.
honestly, I only have one more thing that I want to add for the whole book.
Okay. At 26%, I noted that it was disappointing.
What happened at 26%?
No, as in, like, I was disappointed in how the book was going.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah,
like, at 26%, I was like, do you know what, I'm actually not having fun here. This is disappointing me. I'm not enjoying this book like I thought I would.
Yeah.
At 33%, I wrote, the main character is annoying and extremely naive. And by this I mean, she's lived in this city her entire life. We already know this. She's 14. She lived here her entire life. And she's just being naive about stupid things, like not walking around, not like knowing things that if you live somewhere you'd know.
Yeah.
Like the way that the proximity of all these buildings were and everything were, like we're getting to them within moments when reading this book. Like they shouldn't have been difficult or confusing or anything. Like it just didn't make sense.
Is weird. Like it almost seems like she's being sheltered. Well, she doesn't live in the same building as her.
No, so she obviously wasn't.
Well, yeah, so it's like self-imposed.
Yeah.
Then again, her parents died, so it's like, you know, maybe it makes sense that she's like sheltering herself from.
But I think it's more of a just then made the character naive to explain simple things away. Such as it took her 6 hours to get home.
Oh yeah.
When she went away from the castle, and we saw that she went past a church not long before getting home. And then suddenly they're very quickly at this church, and when they need to get back to the castle to talk to the Duchess, which is the next point we're going to talk about, well, they're doing a full day of work there. So how did they get there in such a short amount of time to then do a full day of work before they needed to sneak away?
I don't know, maybe they walked overnight.
But yeah.
I mean, it did seem like it was a bit of a... Yeah, I don't think the author wrote these things down and figured out, like, what the distance is and how long it takes by cart and how long it takes on foot.
Well, the sort of books I enjoy do that.
They do.
There's no like missing element there
okay.
that like I'm going to be questioning.
Yeah, makes sense.
And then it was pretty boring until chapter 19. It seemed like the characters were just figuring things out amongst themselves or by themselves that were obvious to us as the reader. So it was just quite boring.
Like what?
The Inquisitor being involved, what they needed to do, how she could get her magic to her.
Okay.
That who they could trust, who they couldn't, just like stuff like that. And it was just like, this is really quite obvious. But then they decided to go and tell the Duchess what was going on and believe the Duchess didn't know what was happening. Obviously, with how I'd seen the trial go, I was like, well, I assume the Duchess knows, maybe she doesn't. But at this point I was like, oh, like this book could go in so many ways here depending on what the outcome of this is. Like this could be really interesting. And then we just had the most boring outcome ever. Like she literally just went and Oberon got exiled. Yay! That was it. chapter 25, by 63%, she was back home after Oberon had been exiled, and it was like, well, what now?
Yeah, that's what it felt like for me. It felt like it's at 63%, the story was a bit rubbish, and it's now over, so what on earth is the other 35% of the book going to be?
Yeah. And it felt like that for a while. Like 63%, I then at 72% made a note saying stuff's happening, there's more plot, but I'm still bored.
Okay.
So I feel like there's quite a big jump in between, like, those times of just like not much happening.
Yeah, yeah.
At chapter 34, 90%, things were happening and it was technically fun.
Yeah.
But this was also the point that I really realised that, like, oh, this has been miscategorised. That's why I'm not enjoying this, because this is not for young adults, this is for middle grade. Like,
sure.
And at the time I was thinking, oh, like, maybe it could just be for the young adults, because I have read a few books where I've been like, oh, like, this is just for like 12, 13, 14-year-olds. Like, it's not what I was expecting from young adult, but young adult's a very broad age category. But no, the more I read, the more I was like, no, like, this to me read like the original 5 Percy Jackson books, but like not as good, nowhere near as good as that. Like, I enjoyed those, but like it read to like that age range, and that, like, you know, like it was to the same audience, I would say. And I essentially wrote down, it's not a crap YA cozy fantasy, it's a middle grade fun time fantasy, and due to that, what I was expecting wasn't what I get. And then I have 2 more notes for the entire book, because like I was just bored, like I didn't care at this point. I enjoyed the fight scenes were good. I enjoyed the expanding upon the dome magic and how we got to see the dome magic grow and to learn more about it. And that was it.
I also enjoyed how we learned more about the dome magic. That brings me into my point, actually. So throughout the first 2/3 of the book, have you already read what I read?
I haven't read your point, but are you going to say you were correct?
No.
Okay.
So
I thought Jay was going to make this entire point, wait till the last thing we spoke about to be like, oh, I said she was going to make giant gingerbread men. I made this note in my Kindle.
Okay, yeah, I didn't. I forgot to write that down. At some point, very early on in the book, it was like at 20% or something, she said, I've often thought about making life-size gingerbread men. And I highlighted that and wrote, this will definitely happen later. And
something very similar did.
I'm glad that it did. And I'm glad that I'm right.
Okay, what's your actual final point then?
My actual point is, for the first 2/3 of the book, Mona kept saying something along the lines of, she's not a very powerful wizard, the real wizards are the actual powerful ones. And
even though she kept being told different by other people.
Well, I mustn't have picked up on that, because she believed it, she clearly believed that. And I think I believe that too.
Okay.
I didn't realise that, like, until she, like, you know, picked up that book and started to read about, like, how people with a little bit of magic can learn to, like, make their magic.
Oh my gosh, if you learn something, if you learn a skill, you can improve upon it. No, I know, I'm getting bitchy now. I didn't enjoy it.
I know. But yeah, I really liked that progression. I really liked that, I mean, what I said earlier, where we learnt about her magic slowly, and so did she. I also liked the progression of, like, she thought she wasn't a very powerful wizard, and then some bad thing happened, she had to step up and use her magic.
Yeah.
And it turns out she's actually a powerful wizard, which I liked that.
And if you haven't read it and for some reason have watched the entire spoiler section, Oberon essentially goes to these pirate people and are like, okay, we can attack this town now. The army are away because they thought the pirate people were in a different area.
Overall, right, there were parts of the actual story that I really enjoyed, but the overall plot was just crap. I think that's pretty much. Did you feel the same?
Yeah.
Cool.
I also didn't like the characters, which is a big point for me. Like, in books, I really do need to like at least one or two of the characters.
I quite liked Mona and Spindle to a certain extent. Like, I didn't really dislike.
I don't like children.
Yeah.
But it doesn't stand for every book. I've read middle grades that I've really enjoyed.
Yeah. No,
I've read a book just that had children characters and it was fine. Like, I just...
No, I didn't. I wasn't, like, super attached to any of the characters, but I certainly didn't dislike them.
If any of them died, I wouldn't have cared. The most upsetting death was Nag, and that was a horse.
That's true. That is very... Oh yeah, okay, I totally forgot to write that down. It actually annoyed me how, like, she was...
Oh, she could have helped all along.
Yeah,
Molly, Mad Molly?
yeah, no,
something,
I don't know.
something Molly.
But yeah, not only could she have helped all along, she like came
Also,
and saved the day at the last minute.
Came and saved the day at the last minute. But also, if she didn't want to help, which, look, fair enough. If you've got bad experience, you can't deal with it. Fair enough. But I'm not like, you can't train someone else. You can't help someone else so they're able to do better. Like, yeah, it was just stupid.
Yeah, I didn't like that bit. That it was like, you know, she tried. She was, you know, everything was going wrong. That's fine. But the solution was, oh, someone else comes and fixes it. Like,
yeah.
I don't know. That was that griped me a bit actually, and I'd forgotten about it until you mentioned.
Because there's power in friendship.
Well, yeah, but if there was, she could have helped way earlier, couldn't she?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's it. I think I don't think we have anything else to add. Overall, I liked Buddy reading this book. I enjoyed that this was like a book club book. We got to speak to each other. Hopefully we'll be able to speak to more people. Like, once this video's out in the Discord, whatever. I enjoyed that. I just wish it was a book I enjoyed. Like, I don't think in a month's time I will ever be thinking about this book again.
I'm inclined to agree. I didn't dislike it. There was nothing wrong with it necessarily. I
think there's definitely people who really enjoy this book, but I think you need to go in expecting something different to what the book is being advertised as. And like, that's not the author's fault. That's the marketing and publishing fault.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's how it's marketed that has led me to think I would enjoy this book and picked it up.
If we were reading this just because we wanted to, nothing to do with the book club or whatever, I'm not sure if I would have DNF'd it, but I can guarantee I wouldn't have finished it.
That's a DNF.
Well,
DNF stands for do not finish.
I know what it stands for. I know what it means.
You wouldn't have officially.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm in the middle of 30 books, right? Doesn't mean I've DNF'd them, it just means I've
PDFN.
Picked up for now, no.
Put down for now.
Oh, yeah, put down for now. Yeah, I probably would have infinitely put down for now.
Yeah, I don't know if I would have finished it or not, or if I would have DNF'd it. I've been getting better at DNFing. It wasn't until that 90% mark that for me it clicked that this had been marketed as a different book as what it was. I think being at 90% when I realised that, I probably would have finished it, but if I'd have realised that sooner into the book, I don't know if I would have.
Yeah, makes sense.
So yeah, I really hope you enjoyed the video. If you did join in with the book club and read the book, let us know down below. Any questions, any queries, any discussions, pop it down below. I'll be in the comments. Will you be in the comments?
I don't know, maybe.
Okay, well that's great. Thanks, Joe.
Okay.
Give the video a like if you liked it, subscribe down below, and don't forget, in the description down below is the link to join the Discord if you want to be a part of the discussions for books in the future.
Yes.
Yeah. Hopefully, we'll see you next time. Bye!